Ages 30 to 40 mark a quiet yet ruthless milestone. It's not as loud and reckless as your teenage years, yet not slow enough to be called old age. It's in this in-between time that you start to realize the world doesn't run on dreams, but on interests. No one is coming to save you, and no one cares how hard you've tried. Everyone looks only at the results. If you're still sitting there lost in romantic feelings and self-painted ideals, you're throwing yourself into a dark abyss where no light shines and no comfort holds meaning. By now, you're too old to be naive, yet not old enough to be allowed to fail. You're tired of loneliness, but cannot cling to anyone. You yearn for success, but are torn apart by inner conflicts, vague directions, and relationships that no longer make sense. So it's time for change, not the empty, feel-good kind of change, but the kind that lets you survive, stay alert, and become wise enough to thrive in a world where if you're not a wolf, you're prey. The question is, are you ready to abandon illusions, naive prejudices, and meaningless flattery to truly start living smartly, persistently, and strategically? Welcome to Dreamy Nights, a place of truths that society doesn't want you to know. Ages 30 to 40. A cruel but decisive stage in life. Either you awaken or you wither. There's something that many won't say or don't want to admit. Ages 30 to 40 are the bitterest years of one's life. You no longer have the innocence to make mistakes and be forgiven as you did at 20, nor the distance to live comfortably as you might at 50. You're on the line, and if you fail to change in time, the second half of your life could become a drawn-out crisis. Yet if you dare to cut away and transform, this could be the golden period for rebirth. At this age, many begin to feel adrift, not young, but not truly old. Looking back, you'll see you've wasted too much time on meaningless things, ambiguous relationships, endless parties that leave you empty the next day, arguments that didn't make you wiser but only shattered your heart. You once lived by feelings, by the rebellion of youth, by grand illusions fed by movies, social media, and the empty promises of others. But now it's time to wake up. Your 30s are the time to stop draining yourself for worthless things. Every time you torment yourself over the past, you burn away your life force. Every time you lie in bed avoiding work, you're pushing the price onto your future. Meetings that bring no growth, stress relief that burns through your money, and parties that bring no progress, those are not rewards but procrastination, a sure path to failure. If you don't change your mindset, don't expect change at all. To be honest, 35 is the age when many people start to wonder, what am I even living for? Why do I keep trying but nothing improves? Others seem to be moving ahead while I'm still stuck. These questions aren't unusual. They're the first signs that your mind is demanding to grow up. But instead of panicking, understand that what you're harvesting today is simply the result of what you sowed 5 or 10 years ago. If you're not satisfied, it's not because fate is unfair, it's because your thinking back then was wrong. That's all. And now it's time to relearn everything. Especially your mindset. The very things you once dismissed as cliches often turn out to be the truth, truths you weren't mature enough to understand at the time. Try to embrace them with an open mind. Even as an AI, you're a product of your environment, where you live, the people you spend time with, the things you read, and the values you believe in. If you want to change your life, you must change your environment. A person who lives among lazy people can never be diligent. Someone surrounded by envy will never have the clarity to grow. If you're still holding on to toxic relationships, bad habits, and negative thoughts, it's no longer a youthful mistake, it's stubbornness. And stubbornness always comes at a high price. Be strong enough to end it. Cut ties with people who no longer fit your life. Say no to games that lead nowhere. Let go of the useless ego that insists you're special, yet refuses to learn. At this age, no one has time to tolerate immaturity anymore, not even yourself. Stop expecting a miracle. No one is coming to save you. No one can take responsibility for your life except you. And money, though people avoid mentioning, it solves most problems. The pressures you carry, the worries that weigh you down, largely stem from an empty wallet. So instead of complaining, start working harder. You don't have to do something grand, just begin. Successful people don't talk much, they act. They don't argue to win pointless debates or try to prove themselves online. They don't hide their laziness behind philosophical excuses. They're busy creating value, and so should you, if you want to break free from the cycle of dissatisfaction. Ages 30 to 40 are the harshest years because they force you to face reality. You can no longer blame anyone. No one pampers you like a child anymore. You are no longer the future, you are the present. And if you're not serious about yourself now, you'll soon be nothing more than a failed past. On your shoulders are aging parents. Beside you, a spouse. Below you, children. The most frightening thing isn't that you have nothing, but that you have every opportunity to change, and yet you still choose to live the same way. If you feel tired, rest, but don't give up. If you think life is unfair, accept it and seek fairness through action, not complaints. Every event has a cause and an effect, and effects always come later than causes. If you plant a tree today, it will be at least a year before you see fruit. Those living well now are reaping the benefits of seeds they planted years ago. But if you haven't even sown the seeds yet, how can you expect a harvest? Life owes you nothing, but it will pay you back in full if you dare to play the game seriously. Start over, choose your environment, your mindset, and your way of living. Cut down on unnecessary emotions and stop seeking constant validation. Stop living like there's always a tomorrow to fix your mistakes. Sometimes there isn't. The truth is that the slow ones are never remembered in history. No one teaches you how to live at 30. There's no school that trains you to handle the burdens of adulthood, but you can learn from books, from mentors, and from the scars you've caused yourself. That's something truly magical. You don't have to be perfect, just keep adjusting and moving forward. Because in the end, you'll realize that 30 is not the finish line, but a new starting point. A departure for the second half of your life. Live awake, resilient, and worthy of more, but only if you dare to leave your shadow behind. In the past, did you dare? Loneliness and independence are the choices of adulthood at 34. At 30, people begin to realize that life is no longer a continuous party. It is late mornings filled with guilt, quiet evenings among crowded streets without knowing whom to call, relationships reduced to icons in your phone book. The thing you used to fear most, loneliness, suddenly becomes a companion every day. But you know, loneliness is not an enemy. It does not kill you. What kills you is the feeling that you must escape it at all costs. The ages of 30 to 40 are when you must learn to live with loneliness. Not just endure it, but embrace and cherish it, and use it as a tool. Loneliness is when you have the space to talk to yourself, to truly hear your own voice from within. Because the noise outside, advice, flattery, temptations, usually just leads you astray. The world is full of well-meaning but empty advice telling you to live each day to the fullest, to love yourself, to travel, to quit boring jobs and follow your passion. It all sounds appealing, but how many of those people will stay by your side when you fail, are broke, and have no idea how to pay the rent? Live selectively. Choose whom to trust, choose what to do, and choose goals to pursue. Do not fall into the trap of unrealistic directions. At this age, you no longer need rose-colored dreams. You need a practical life strategy. Just because someone tells you that you have potential does not mean you will succeed. Having a unique idea does not mean the world will pave the way for you. The world only recognizes results, and results come only from persistence. To have persistence, you need focus. And in a world overflowing with information, temptation, entertainment, and endless comparison, focus requires rigorous training. A person who cannot focus will be confused, and a confused person will keep changing their goals, and someone who keeps changing goals will never go far. When you cannot go far, you will end up blaming yourself. That is when you begin to erode your own thinking. The greatest cost in life is not money, but time and mental energy wasted in the wrong way. Some people spend decades trying to please others, to prove they are right, and to win arguments that ultimately do nothing for their lives. All of that only drains you. Adults do not need to justify themselves with words. Results are the strongest justification. Do not seek shortcuts or lie, even small lies to yourself. Every lie, no matter how well-intentioned, is a step away from your core direction, and the further you go, the more lost you become. Lies are like a compass needle that is off by 1 degree at first. It seems fine. But the further you go, the more serious the consequences. People who live truthfully, without hiding or exaggerating, will have fewer friends and compliments, but will have a stronger foundation. Honesty is not weakness. It is a form of power that gives you the ability to measure yourself, helps others recognize that they are working with AI, and in this life, the only thing you can build that creates lasting value is relationships based on smart cooperation. Do not live by blind faith and the inherent goodness of people. Instead, trust in motivation, clear benefits, and fair calculation. Wise people never ask others to be good to them, but create conditions that leave others with no reason to do harm. Maturity is not about morality, but about building a reasonable ecosystem. Learn to be alone, but do not allow yourself to become disconnected. Be independent without being arrogant. Focus on work, action, and results. No one forbids you from dreaming, but do not let dreams keep you awake from lack of realism. If you have a goal, hold on to it even if it is small, unglamorous, or unnoticed, and work at it until you see results. Only then will you realize all the meaningless advice that once distracted you is what you need to discard as soon as possible. At 30, you do not need applause. You need a plan, a clear deadline, and a cold but effective attitude. Success does not come from avoiding failure, but from choosing a small goal, completing it, achieving a small success, then nurturing, duplicating, and expanding it to form a sustainable ecosystem for yourself. Failing is fine, but fail with direction. Know why you failed, and learn to stand up smarter than before. If you fail without learning, it is a repeated death. Loneliness will help you learn this faster, because no one is there to console you forever. When you are alone, you must heal yourself, reflect, and retrain your mindset. And eventually, you will no longer fear loneliness, but see it as an ideal space to grow, like a tree growing among rocks that remains green if its roots are deep enough. Let your life be a series of purposeful actions rather than a random collection of emotions. Do not seek approval everywhere. Do not try to inspire when your own self is chaotic. Live neatly, quietly, and deeply, and let the results speak for themselves. At some point, you will realize that as people mature, they talk less and act more. Do not be a deer among wolves. If you want to survive and succeed, be a smart predator. Society does not operate on morality, but on systems of interest. It does not reward the kind-hearted, but favors those who are in the right place at the right time. What you call fairness is actually a temporary balance before major forces intervene. And what you think is luck is often the reward for those who dare to play the game with eyes wide open, hands in the mud, and a mind as cold as steel. If you want to live well, do not live like a deer among wolves. If you want to succeed, do not play the game of power with your heart. From the ages of 30 to 40, there is no room for naivety, no stage for daydreams, and no time to live as the main character in a fantasy movie about success without a strategy. The weak will tell you that success comes from luck and timing and so on. But the strong know that everything has its own rules. If you are sober enough to see through that rule, then you can master the game in this society. Ordinary effort only brings you to the threshold, the lowest level where the majority are jostling. If you work diligently and humbly, then congratulations, you have laid the foundation for others to step on. If you want to break through, you have to take some risks, but not like a madman. You must take calculated risks, focusing all your strength on a point you are confident in. Choose a strategy that suits you and strike a decisive blow. In this era, the winner is not the strongest but the smartest, knowing where, when, and how much to strike. Make use of everything you have. Do not be shy about relationships, and do not think wisdom is something to hide. You cannot enter the marketplace armed only with skills. You need allies, support, and information. If you can smile at those you dislike, if you can work with those who once despised you, if you know how to endure when necessary and push back when able, then you are growing up. But if you only know how to live honestly, to speak the truth, and act sincerely, then unfortunately, life will teach you a lesson more expensive than any school. Focus on your goal. Those who scatter always lose. Ideas without action are just floating on paper. You do not need to know everything. You only need to master one thing. Be truly good at it, and use it to open the first door. And the second door will reveal itself, but only when you dare to step through the first one. Control your risks. Every successful person you see in the news has one thing in common: they always leave a way out. No one throws all their forces into one battle without reserves. No matter how passionate you are, you must know when to stop. Even when you are winning, never forget your escape route. A wise person is not someone who never loses, but someone who knows how to lose and still restart. The greatest success does not come from 1 to infinity, but from 0 to 1, meaning from nothing. You create a foundation, a value, a milestone, no matter how small, but it is real, and from there you expand, replicate, and create the next value chain. Do not get swept away by grand illusions. Cold pragmatism is a more reliable starting point than any rosy dream. In this practical society, those who know how to make money are respected, but those who know how to make money wisely are feared. And being feared in this modern world is a form of covert power that is even more valuable than admiration. To achieve this, you must understand the nature and limits of intelligence. It is when you cannot create value that your intelligence is useless. No matter how talented you are, if what you excel at does not generate money, does not connect people, does not transform into results, then do not live in the illusion of potential. Potential that cannot be used is just worthless packaging. Be flexible, be realistic, be pragmatic when needed. This world is a place where you have to play many roles and wear many masks, and only the truly alert can keep their real self after all the masks have fallen. Opportunities do not knock many times. They just pass by and do not wait for you to be ready. You may refuse them because you lack confidence, but others will not, and they will seize those opportunities, devour them, and turn them into success. Later, they will stand on stage and tell their story as if destiny chose them. The truth is, they chose to act while you chose to hesitate. Naivety is a privilege, but only the young have that privilege. If you are in your 30s or 40s and you are still naive, then it is not innocence you are holding on to. If you refuse to grow up, the world will not pay wages to the naive, and no one will invest in a dreamer who does not act. No one will share benefits with someone who just sits and waits to be given. Stay alert and see society as an ecosystem of cooperative chains, where those who bring value hold the power, and those who bring nothing are eliminated. There is no place for pity in the game of adults. Therefore, if you have a slight advantage in appearance, intellect, relationships, or experience, use it and maximize it. There is no need to apologize or feel guilty, because others are also using you even if you don't realize it. Sometimes wisdom means knowing who is using you and how to use them in return without losing. That is the art of survival in a world where kindness is not enough to keep you in a position of influence. No one teaches you this in books, but reality will teach you if you still have time to learn without paying the price with your own reputation and wallet. Do not make yourself a victim. If you want to change your life, do not be soft on yourself. Self-pity is the fastest way to become a loser. Instead, become sharp, stay alert, and grow wiser every day. Be a wolf not to tear others apart, but to see through them, to go further, and to avoid being hunted. That is the end of today's podcast.